We love to talk about which quarterbacks are overpaid or underpaid, mostly overpaid, let's be honest. But let's actually talk about which ones are or aren't overpaid. I think there's a really interesting conversation to be had here by using an algorithm that actually, by the end of this, I really liked what I came up with. And I think that I kind of understand football a little better now after doing this exercise. And so hopefully you will too after you go through it with me. There is some math involved, but don't worry. I did all the math myself. You can just learn the results. So right off the bat, what I'm going to start with is $215 million to spend. Now, this is a little bit over the salary cap, but the average team does spend over the salary cap. So that's why I'm putting it here. Again, it's kind of a rough estimate. Some teams do go over, some teams do go under, but this is where the average team is at. And so if the average team spends 20-ish million on draft picks, again, that obviously varies depending on when you pick, but we'll use 20 million on draft picks. That's not for 1 year, but that's for all 4 years. I'm excluding 5th-year options. We're also going to go with the formula of 25 million per win on average for other contracts. That's actually what just the league average is for a win. It's right around 25 million for 1 win. But keep in mind, that's including quarterbacks. So a good non-quarterback contract, that's also not a draft pick contract, would be roughly what the average team spends on 1 win, because you're doing it without the benefit of cheaper contracts or with quarterback contracts. So that's what you're shooting for with other contracts. So with this logic, if you spent that money everywhere else that you had the money, you'd have 7.8 wins through big contracts, and the average rookie contracts would get you about 2.9 wins. So long story short, if you are just an average team doing the model and doing everything else right, you would put yourself at 10.7 total wins, which is good, but you are still not a championship team, even if you do all this stuff the way you should. Again, you can go better than some of this stuff. You know, the average rookie contracts gets you about 2.9 wins. You can do better than that. You can also do worse than that, but maybe you just draft really well. Perhaps you get some really good value with some of these other contracts, or the simplest way, you get a good quarterback contract. So the next part involved me doing a lot of algebra and math. We'll skip that part for you, but basically I just created a formula to figure out about how many wins does a quarterback need to get per dollar spent on them. This is my chart, and let me explain why a couple of these numbers are a little bit odd. So the categories you see are a 5.83 win quarterback, a 5-win quarterback, a 4-win quarterback, a 3-win quarterback, and a 2.3 win quarterback. The reason why it starts at 2.3 is because, I mean, think about it logically. If everything else got you 10.7 wins, then your quarterback has to get you at least 2.3 more wins to get to 13 wins, and that's my cutoff for what I would consider to be a championship team. Teams have won championships with less than 13 wins. Teams have won more than 13 games and not won a championship. But that's kind of where I would estimate what you have to get to win a championship. Right around 13 puts you in championship contention. The reason why we have all the way at the top of the screen 5.83 win quarterback is that is the highest WAR season that I've found. Now, I'm using PFF WAR for that, not for everything else, just for literally that sentence of that's the highest I've seen from PFF WAR. Tom Brady in 2017 had a 5.83 win season, which is just absurd. And according to this algorithm, that would mean that he was literally worth over $100 million that year if the salary cap was the same as it is today, which it wasn't. But if it was, he would be worth over $100 million. A 5-win quarterback would be worth around $71.9 million, and the 4-win quarterback is really the important one to look at here because that's worth $43.8 million. But it's worth mentioning that with my model, so getting away from PFF's model now and going to my own WAR model, I have it estimated that the average top 5 quarterback season is worth right around 4 wins. So basically, that's the table to look at. A top 5 quarterback can get you a championship if you're paying him about $43.8 million. Now, of course, a top 1 quarterback is worth more than that, but that's basically the way I look at it. A 3-win quarterback, you can only pay $23.5 million, and then a 2.3-win quarterback, if you had that guy and paid him $0, well, you'd be good that way. So obviously things get a little bit wonky in there, but really that's kind of the way I would look at it, is for the model, you probably need someone who's going to get you to at least close to 3 wins. Going over here, this is Tom Brady's PFF WAR, what I alluded to earlier. So I just figured this would be a good way for you to kind of visualize how much a quarterback can win you throughout the course of a season. And again, we're talking about the GOAT. Brady has more WAR than anybody, regardless. I've used multiple different systems myself. PFF has a system. Everyone always has Brady as number 1. That's just how the numbers are. And this doesn't go all the way back to the beginning of his career, but you look at it and there's a lot of high numbers here. Multiple, in fact, 3 seasons where he got over 5 wins, which is something that rarely happens, and a decent amount where he had over 4.5, which is still a ton. Every single year, he cleared that 2.3 threshold. Okay, now I'm just talking about how great Brady is, but you see the idea. Okay, someone like Brady, he's gonna pretty much float around 4, a little bit over 4, maybe get the occasional 5-win season. So now finally, let's go to this chart, the one you're all here to see. Which quarterbacks are worth their contract, which aren't. So first, I gotta explain what this chart is. So I have the top 10 highest paid quarterbacks, along with just a couple other guys that I thought were interesting. I'll get to them in a second. And basically what you see is, so start at the top, Aaron Rodgers, number 1 means he's the highest paid. Aaron Rodgers means he's Aaron Rodgers. 50.3 million, that's how much he's making. It's the average 1-year salary, not in terms of cap hit, because that tends to be a better way to view this stuff. It seems like teams typically make their moves because of how much money they currently have available, not because of the salary cap itself. So I pay more attention to actual cash here. And then finally, the thing to your right, this is wins needed to make contract. So for Aaron Rodgers, if his contract is $50.3 million, to make his contract work and make the Packers a championship contending team, he has to give them about 4.3 wins. So a lot of people are going to say that's a bad contract, but I really don't see it as one. It's a little bit higher than your average top 5 quarterback value of 4 wins. So assuming Rodgers can continue to play like a top 3 quarterback, he's going to be right around where he needs to be. So I think this is a fine contract. The next 3, Deshaun Watson, Patrick Mahomes, and Josh Allen, have multiple things going for them. Again, as long as those guys can play like a top 5 quarterback, which they have been doing as of late, then they're going to be worth that contract, or at least get close enough to it that I would say it's worth it. The other thing they have going for it is that the hope is, if you're a fan of one of those teams, is that as they continue to play, the contracts become better value because it's a smaller portion of the cap, meaning the ratio changes, and then you don't have to win as many games as a quarterback to make that happen. 5 and 6 is where we get to some interesting stuff, and this is where I would say these are 2 quarterback contracts that are bad contracts. Matthew Stafford's new deal at $43 million a year, and Dak Prescott getting $40 million a year. So you see the amount of wins they would need to have is just, quite frankly, they have never done that throughout the course of their career. This is a top 5 caliber season, and I don't mean 5th best. Typically you would think like 3rd best, right? That logically follows. So because of that, this now means that are either of these guys going to be a top 3 quarterback? The chances are unlikely, and that means the chances of them winning a Super Bowl are unlikely. Now, you might be saying, didn't Matthew Stafford just win a Super Bowl last year? And yes, he did. You didn't fever dream that. That is something that happened. But a couple things to know. One, that Rams team was loaded around him, and it's a team sport. Quarterback contracts aren't the only way you win a Super Bowl, although of course they matter. But he was also making just $20 million last year, which, again, that makes it a lot more easy to do that. Like I said, a 3-win quarterback can, if they make $23.5 million, that's okay. I think Stafford was right around that 3-win range, and he made a little bit less than that. So that's another thing worth noting. Now he's making twice as much. I'm not quite sure the Rams will have as much success unless Stafford plays like he did in the playoffs last year throughout the course of the entire season. Russell Wilson at number 7 is a good contract. He'll probably get more than 3.7 wins, although, again, I'm saying a top 5 quarterback gets you 4 wins, and now I'm having, all 5 guys there who I'm projecting to get around 5 wins, and there's even, someone like Brady as well. So one of them might not, but as a whole, I have no problem with that contract. And then the final 3 of the top 10, I do have problems with, obviously. I mean, 2 of them have gone to different teams because of their contracts, right? Jared Goff is not going to win 3.62 games by himself in the course of a season. He doesn't add that much value. I think guys like Kirk Cousins and Carson Wentz, this is where things get interesting. So we'll start off with Cousins at 9. So he has to add 3.62 wins. And last year, he didn't add that much, but he wasn't that far off from it. So I guess that's the goal and that's the hope, is that you can get somewhere in the ballpark. But again, it's really difficult to add more wins in other positions. It's just hard to do that. And so that's why I like the idea of making sure that you have a good quarterback contract. I think that's very important. It makes everything else easy. And that's kind of the same thing with Carson Wentz. And this is why, I even put his number down a little bit to just what Washington is going to be paying him, $28 million, which doesn't seem that much. And I think a lot of people think, well, okay, what's the big deal about Carson Wentz making $28 million? Like if he was making $18 million, everyone would say, oh, what a great contract. What's the big deal about just, that small percentage of the salary cap? Well, for one, Wentz is someone I would consider greater than a 2.3 win quarterback. So he could win a Super Bowl. And in fact, that's kind of what happened in the Super Bowl run, right? Carson Wentz and then Nick Foles both had what, was not 4-win quarterback play, but they had what was, actually under 3-win quarterback play. But it was so cheap that they still were able to win a Super Bowl that year because the rest of their team was so good. It's just more difficult to do that when you're paying him $28 million. You have to find those wins in other aspects of football, which is, I think, really difficult to do. It's possible, but it's really difficult. The other two on the bottom that I wanted to talk about because they're fascinating. So someone like Tom Brady, this is where things get, again, very interesting for me. Tom Brady, he's only getting $25 million because he, is getting paid way below market rate. He's getting paid half of what Aaron Rodgers is getting, even though those two were, in the MVP race the entire season, basically. Out of the 14 seasons that we have his WAR available, he's surpassed it in 11 of those years, as in surpassed 3.3, which is what he has to surpass, meaning 11 out of the past 14 years, he's been a championship contender, in part because he doesn't take as much money. Now, again, it varies year to year, so it's not quite that simple. The ratio isn't the same, but still, I'm just using that to make a point. The other guy who I wanted to talk about, how about Tua? And again, I know that you might be saying, wait a second, one of these quarterbacks is not like the others, right? But look at how much money he's making. Only $7.5 million. So he only has to be a 2.6 win quarterback to be worth his contract because he's on the rookie deal. And this is why the rookie deal aspect can be such an interesting thing. This is why someone like Justin Herbert has a really good chance of winning a Super Bowl now because he's not getting paid much. Why Joe Burrow went to the Super Bowl last year because he's not getting paid much. That's where things get interesting. And finally, for the 7 of you who are actually interested in the math side of things, so this is the formula I used. If you're one of the quarterbacks that I didn't get to in this video, or if you're a fan, you're probably not one of those quarterbacks, but if you're a fan of one of those quarterbacks, what you can do is, if you want to enter it in yourself, Y here is going to be the millions of dollars spent on the quarterback. So a $10 million contract would be 10 in that scenario, and an X would be how many wins they need to make it work given the algorithm. So that's how I view the quarterback position, quite frankly. My own thoughts on it is, if you have a star quarterback, you hold on to him, right? You make sure you keep them, because someone who can get a 5-win season or even a 5.8-win season, like whatever you're paying them, it's going to be a good year. That's just the reality of the situation. It's hard to overpay a guy who's getting you over 5 wins in a year. It's quite frankly impossible to do that unless you're going to, completely break the market by a ton. The other aspect I think that is important here is you have to get a quarterback who can break the 2.3 win threshold, which my estimation would be there's about 20 quarterbacks in football who can do it. So there's a decent amount. It's not like there's no it's not like it's like you have to really find someone great, but you can't be like a bottom 10 to 15 passing team in the NFL. Again, there's been exceptions, right? The Peyton Manning Broncos, but that's pretty much the only one in recent memory, I would say, it's been an exception here. And, I even try to think, maybe I'll do a study on, who's been the best team with a bad quarterback contract. But with this algorithm, I can't think of, other than Peyton Manning, I can't think of a team that that goes against this algorithm. I think it seems like every quarterback kind of fits in that mold of, the better you are, the more you can get paid kind of thing. So that's how I view this stuff. So if, for Kyler Murray, I think that's an interesting topic of how much should you pay Kyler Murray. Paying Kyler Murray will absolutely help you win games and get you more competitive. Do you believe Kyler Murray can be a consistent 4-win quarterback? Because if you do, pay him, what he needs, even $50 million, because eventually the contract will be good, and maybe he'll overplay it a bit. Because the more you can get, if the difference between a 4-win quarterback and a 5-win quarterback is literally $30 million. It's that valuable getting that one extra win. So if you can have him have one great year, get a 5-win season, that's all you need. An MVP caliber season is just so important in football. So that's kind of how I view all this stuff. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments below. What are your thoughts on all of this? Always love hearing from you. And of course, as always, thanks for watching.